I am Murali, Assistant Professor, so Department of Computer Science and Technology, Madanapalle Institute of Technology and Science. And today's topic is Structure Query Language. So this is the flow of presentation. So we'll have introduction, history, the key features in SQL, and what is the basic syntax in SQL. And we'll have some common data types which is used in the SQL. And we'll have some predefined SQL functions. And we'll have some concepts called primary key and foreign key. Then we'll have ACID properties. And finally, we'll have some summary and reference. So first we'll go for an introduction. So SQL, it means that it's a structured query language. So it's a standard programming language for managing and manipulating relational database. So before this SQL coming into the picture, so we used only to store the data for file systems only. So in file system, we will have we are facing difficulties on getting the data and inserting the data and all. So that's why this SQL coming into the picture. So here the data will be stored in a table format, that is in rows and column. So with the help of this structure query language, so it is easy to manage and manipulate the relational database. So the main purpose of using this structure query language is, so it is easy to query, and then we can insert the data and we can update, and then we can delete the data. So coming to the history of a structure query language, so it's an origin is it's developed in 1970s by IBM. So later it standardized by ANSI in 1986. So the key features of structure query languages: DML, DDL, DCL, and TCL. So if it is DML, so when you want to have any manipulation on our table or database, so whatever it may be, so that we can do with the help of this data manipulation language. So this will be mainly we are using in schema objects. So that is select, insert, update, and delete. So if you want to select any object, we can select with the help of this select query. And if you want to insert some values in that object, we can use insert. And if you want to update any objects, so like tables, like that, so we can use that update query. And then if you want to delete any sort of tables or records, so whatever it may be, we can use it for delete. So whenever we are planning to manage data within schema object, so we can use this DML. So then we will have a data definition language, DDL. So this is used to define and manage the database structure. That is, so whenever we want to store some data, so we need to create or design a table. So that table, it comes under a database. So whenever we want to have a table, so we need to create a database. So then you can create the tables so under the database, and we can create procedures, functions, views, and all. So all these things will be comes under data definition language. So here you can create your tables and then view, procedure and function, everything. And also we can alter the table. So this once we are creating a table, we are going to give the design. So if I need any update on that particular table, so with the help of this alter, we can alter the table and then all the database structures. And if you don't want some particular structures, we can drop that also, and we will have a truncate. So if you want to truncate the table values, we can truncate it. So then coming to the data control language, DCL, so it is used to control access to data. So if you are planning for a database for any sort of industry, so under database we will have a number of tables. So that tables will be depending upon the departments. So if I have 5 departments, so each and every department, if I am maintaining 10 tables, so totally we will have around 50 tables. So these 50 tables will not be given grant to all the departments. So if that particular person belongs to HR department, I'm going to select that particular HR tables, so that can be granted to that particular user. So this grant and revoke, so we can give permission for that particular tables or views and procedures, everything. So after giving this grant, so we are planning to remove that particular controls from that particular user. We can use the revoke, so that will be comes under data control language. So we can define so which structures, which tables to be used by which user. So even we can give a single table to a single user. So only the database administrator will have all the rights to access all the structures. So depending upon the department of that particular user, we can grant the permission to that particular views tables or something else. And transaction control language, this is TCL. So this is used to manage the transactions. So when you're writing a structural query, and we can have a multiple queries in a single transaction also. So if you are getting into that picture, whether it will be a the right transaction, so we can go for a commit. So commit in the sense it is going to complete the changes which occur previously. So if anything happens, so while doing that transaction, so we can roll back. So it just like an undo. So what you are using in our word, that is control set. So if you have typed something wrong, we can roll back. The same thing when you are doing some transaction, if the transaction is getting correct, so we can go for a commit. So it will saves it. So if I want to revoke that particular transaction, I can go for a rollback. So save point, it also like a commit. So it will have some transaction name. With that transaction name, we can create it as a save point. So this will be the basic structure of SQL. So SQL statement generally consists of classes like select, from, where. So this will be the simple example for to select the employee table. So we already told that the employee table will have rows and columns. So here I'm going to put select star from employee. So it means that it is going to display the employee table. So if I have an employee table with the employee ID, name, and address details, so or we can have some salary details, so all the columns will be displayed. So it means that select star. Star means that I'm going to select or I'm going to display all the columns which is available in the employee table. So here we can have some condition. So all the condition will comes under where keyword. So under where keyword we will have a department. So department, so we'll have a sales. So for a database we will have a more number of departments. So if I want to filter that particular department, so that name is sales in the sense, so I'm going to display the select star from employees where department equal to sales. So this will list the employee table values, so those who are having the department name sales. And these are all the common data types which is used in a SQL query language. So for integer, so here int, so that will be used for integer. So here we don't want to mention the size of integer. And if I want to use some string or alphanumeric, so in that case I'm going to use varchar. So this is for variable character string. And if the particular column is having some date values, so for that we will use date. And in some cases we will use some active or inactive employees or products. So in that case I can go for a boolean. So it has 0 and 1, that is true and false. So these are the common data types which is used in SQL. And SQL have some predefined function, aggregate function, string function, and date function. So if it is aggregate function, so these are all the predefined function. I have a table, so with 100 rows, so and I will have some 5 to 6 columns. So if I want to count how many number of rows for that particular table, so in that case I can use for a count keyword. So this will count the number of rows in your table. So if I have a table called employee salary, so here if I want to have the sum of the salary for that particular month, so in that case, so I don't want to sum the salary manually. So instead of that, I'm going to use this predefined sum function. So this sum function, within that you have to put the column name. That column name supposed to be a salary. So that relevant column name, it should be given here, so that it will give the sum of the salary of all the employees. So within that also we can put separate it by department also. So by using group by we can display the sum of the salary by department. The same thing average. So if you want to have the average of that particular table, you can use average. So if you want to find the maximum salary of that particular department or for that particular company, So if you use the max with the salary, so it will display the maximum salary who is getting. So that particular record will be displayed. The same thing when you are want to have some minimum salary. So in that case we can use minimum MIN. So that will be used to get the minimum salary of that particular table. And next one is string function. So we will have some predefined string function. So when I have two columns, so which is having first name and last name. So while getting the report, so we want to display it as a and first name and then last name, it should be combined one. So in that case, we can go for an concat string function. So this will concatenate first name and then last name, and it will display as a single column name. And if you want to find the length of particular column, so we will use that length function. So it will display the length of that particular column and the upper and lower. So we can have some values in our rows and column. So maybe that first name will be everything will be in smaller case, but in our report, if I want to make it as a upper character, I can use the upper predefined function, or else if you want to display that value as a lower character, we can use that lower, so that the report will be comes as a lower character. So this concat length upper and lower, so it will not change anything in the table. So only for selecting or getting the report purpose, so we can use these string functions and aggregate function. So apart from that, we will have a date function. So whenever you want to have some date to be inserted or selected in that particular report, so we can do this get date and date time. So if you want to get the current date, we can get the current date. So we want to get the current date and time, we can get it. So even if you want to insert for error log and all, so no need to write a code for getting the date and inserting the date. So using and predefined date function, we can get it and then we can insert the data. So this is the main concept which is used in the table, primary key and foreign key. So primary key is an unique identifier for a record in a table. It ensures that each entry is distinct and cannot be null. So it often consists of one or more columns that uniquely identify a row. So it means that if I have a table called employee, so that employee table, you may have employee name, it may be a first name, last name, you'll have address of employee, salary of the employee, and the department, the category. So everything we can have in a table. So whenever you are having any master table, so in that table, so any one column, it's supposed to be a primary key. So primary key in the sense, it must be a distinct value and it cannot be a null value. So we can make it as employee ID as a primary key. So if I'm making employee ID as a primary key, then it won't allow empty value, and also it won't allow repetition of that particular value, because we won't have two employee ID for a two different employees. So whenever you are having to have a same employee ID to two different employees, so in that case it will gives an error. So usually we will have one employee ID and one employee name. So in that case, so we need to give any one column name as a primary key. So then coming to the foreign key. So foreign key is a field in one table that refers to the primary key in another table. So primary key, so it's a distinct and cannot be null. So whenever we want to refer the primary key, so we need to have a foreign key in some other table. So in select query, so when you want to get a report, and we are not going to use only one table. So here we can have multiple tables to be combined. So with the help of join, we can combine one or more tables. So to combine one or more tables, we need a foreign key and primary key relation. With the help of this foreign key, I can combine with the primary key from one table to another table, so that we can retrieve the values from both the first and second table. So then acid properties. So acid in the sense atomicity, consistency, isolation, durability. So the first letter of atomicity and consistency, isolation and durability, it becomes acid properties. So when we have this SQL transaction, so this will ensure atomicity, consistency, isolation and durability. If it is atomicity, it ensures that all operation in a transactions are completed. So if one fails, the entire transaction will fail. So if I have a transaction with the two set of operation, one is I am going to credit and some amount from my bank account, and then I need to debit it to some other account. So debit and credit, it's supposed to be happen in a same time. If debit gets occur, if credit is not occur, so that transaction should be, entire transaction should be failed. So only if debit is happening and credit is not happening, so it will not be an comes under atomicity. So whenever you are having two parallel instructions, so that instructions it's supposed to be completed, or else two transaction will be rolled back. And consistency, it ensures that a transaction takes the database from one valid state to another valid state. So database will have a states valid and invalid state. If it is valid state, you can access the database. If it is in invalid state, you could not get any values from the database. So whenever you are doing any transaction, so you need to ensure that your database, it has to move from one valid state to another valid state only. And third point, isolation. It ensures that transactions are executed independently and transparently. So it should not depend on any sort of transaction. So that is isolation. When you have two independent executions of transaction, so that has to be executed independently. So it will not relate with each other. And durability, it ensures that once a transaction is committed, so you can get that particular value or report, and whatever it may be, it should be ready to accessible, and it's not go for a, even if the system gets failure, so that committed data will be accessible. So that is durability. So these things will be ensured in SQL, that is in database management system. So when you are doing for an file system management system, so it is difficult to ensure all these properties. So here in DBMS, that is in SQL, DBMS comes under RDBMS, then it becomes a SQL, so that it will use these ACID properties. So coming to the summary, so here we discussed about SQL. So what is SQL? It's a structured query language, and then it will be used in standardization with the help of IBM, and then we'll have some key features: DDL, DML, DCL and TCL, and basic functions. Coming to that, we'll have some string function, aggregate function. With the help of a predefined function, we can use our queries. And coming to the basic concepts, we discussed about the primary key and foreign key, and we'll have ACID properties. So SQL will ensure this ACID properties. So this is the reference. So if you have any queries and questions about this content, you can leave your queries here.